As long as I can remember, I've had an issue with gambling. Lost every penny to my name at the tables, spent more time indebted to the house than I ever spent in one. I don't know how to explain it. I only ever felt alive in the casino. The flashing, flickering lights, the resounding echoes of dice on red velvet, and whiskey down desperately like water in the desert. Nothing changed when I died. Nothing important, anyway. Same games, slightly different stakes. We gamble emotions now, sensation. We play cards or craps for the worst ones, like exchanging crappy cigarettes. For the other lost souls and I, it's a familiar dance. We're all of the same ilk here. Not benevolent enough for heaven, not wicked enough for hell. Just dead. Just here. Gambling and scrounging and doing whatever we can do to feel alive. Sometimes other things pass around. Lots of us call them demons, but I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure they're just the dealers. Just a few folks being a little less screwed by the house. I've seen a few around, but they had no business with me. They just want to find the fellow on their list and bring him to the Grand Casino. Won't take no one else, won't hear nothing else. The Grand Casino. That's where you can win big. I've heard stories of folks leaving with happiness, joy, and pleasure. Hell, heard one guy even gambled his way back to the world of the living. Of course, I never met someone who won, or even returned from the Grand Casino, short of them dealers. And them, they keep tight lips. Don't say much, one way or another, whether folks bash the place or praise it. Imagine it's part of the house rules. Now, I've already told you that I'm a simple person. I like sleep, like booze, and like gambling. Never turned down a chance at any of them. So when the dealers came a-calling my name, I didn't put up no resistance. The lessons I learned in life, I carried with me when I got here. And one of those lessons? The house isn't perfect. Near it, but not. Sometimes it puts a man behind the table with a heart too soft to help a man hang himself. After a while, you can see it in them. It's in their eyes, of course, but it's really at their lips. I had one fellow, when I was alive, would mouth numbers for me to bet on. Never any big wins, but enough to put a hot meal in me. My dealer now kind of reminds me of that kid. So my dealer, he's tall. I'm talking twice my height. Kind of transparent and warpy, like you're 6 drinks in looking at the world through a puff of a cig. And sometimes it's got features, like a real pretty lady one minute, and then an upright lion. I swore it looked like my pa at one point too. I followed where it led. No use in wasting time. At first I didn't say nothing. Their kind never answer questions anyway. But I've never been good at silence. Makes my skin crawl all jittery like. I think that's why I like to hang by the slots. It's never quiet there. So what's waiting for me over at the Rising Sun? I smile as I ask. It's what me and a few others would call the good casinos. Or the bad ones, depending on how you feel. Same places where you'd crash hard. Harder than anything else. Hard enough that you don't even feel your broken arm when security chucks you out because your soul's in so many pieces you sure ain't ever gonna go back together. Trying to find the energy to crawl into the road and end this catastrophe while wondering why. Why couldn't you just take your winnings and go? Why is it always one more game? But it never is. I had $1 million that night. $1 million. Owner of the house came out, congratulated me. He waved the dealer off and smiled. Double or nothing? The monster. I was hot off a win, throat burning from a fireball, cheeks flush at the touch of impossibly soft lips. I should have said no. But if I'm trying anything... But geez, if I'm anything but who I am. And who I am is a gambler. Listen, the only way to win is not to play. Drink nothing he gives you, eat nothing as well. It'll only dull you to reality. He can only take what you willingly give. Give nothing, and do not speak of this exchange. The dealer entity's voice pulls me back. We're standing in front of a large, ornate door. But it's not attached to anything. They're looking down at me, staring something fierce. What's your name? I don't know why I ask, but it comes to mind. It feels important. I am Elidor. I must leave you now. I have another to retrieve. Heed my words or do not, but share not what I have given you. They pull away as they speak, but I grab their arm. Or try to. It feels like a real thick fog, almost water, but not quite. Thank you, Elidor. You're a good fellow. Thinking back, there wasn't any reason for me to go through that door. I mean, no reason at all. I knew the devil was just sitting there, just waiting for me. And there was the dealer's warning. Elidor, if my gut doesn't drop even now thinking of him, told me the game was rigged. I just had to keep playing. I opened that door to the prettiest palace of sin. Men and women strutting about, some carrying trays of sweets whose very appearance made my mouth water. Others embraced freely on the satin furniture as they sipped strange liquids from intricate glasses. Despite the resounding bell that rings when I open the door, none of them notice me. Or if they do, they don't show it, going about their business completely unfazed. Entranced, I stepped forward. A hand heavy falls on my shoulder from behind. A man stands where the door once was. Welcome. We've been waiting for you. The stern tone, combined with the forceful way he leads me towards the table, makes it clear that I have no choice. He's the only one dressed in such a businesslike way. In a room full of lace bikinis and well-adorned loincloths, his modesty-tailored suit is off-putting. Well, sir, guess I should be saying it's an honor. But where am I? And who are you? The man plants me firmly in a plush armchair. You're in a casino. My casino. And we're going to gamble now, aren't we? My lack of response seems to upset him. I have something you want. I feel it in my gut. I don't like this man. Reminds me of that guy that used to spit at me when I slept off of Rayborn Avenue. Sir, I'm not a wanting kind of gal. Don't need nothing, don't want nothing. He slams an open palm onto the table, spreading a mess of cards as he does. You want to play, and I do too. I suggest you make yourself comfortable, take a drink, grab a snack. Figure out if you'd rather live again or go to heaven, or maybe something else. Whatever you want. I just want your afterlife. Your loyalty and servitude. Your choice of game. Elidor said the only way to win is not to play. But someone has to win every now and then. No one would play if not. I can be the one. I have to be the one. I don't want nothing, but I'll tell you what. I'll play a game of blackjack with you. You win, and you get whatever it is you want. I win. You do a friend of mine a favor. Deal? There isn't anything for me in life, and heaven never sounded too sweet. But I know a soul needing salvation. The fellow blinks hard a few times, but nods. A drink to seal it? No, sir, I know better than that. I don't know how else to phrase it, but that certainly wasn't the right way. Fine, I'll tell you what I want if I win. The name of the fool who ruined my game. So let's play. Things changed. Where once there were others, now we were alone. A dim limelight flickers above us. The man, he isn't any man. I looked in its eyes, at least two of the myriad that pocketed his flesh, and knew I didn't have a chance. But I still played. Gambled with something that wasn't mine. And I lost. And I broke a promise that, for once, I intended to keep. I tell this tale to you as I tell it to others who wander the wasteland. Maybe you'll listen, because I know for damn sure they don't. I don't wish this feeling on anybody. This pain and ache and sadness. I'm not content with this limbo anymore. I worry about Elidor every moment. Worry about what the devil did to him. Don't make my mistake, kids. I didn't learn in life. And I didn't learn in death. I only learned when it was too late. Don't play the odds. Not once, not ever. The house will always put its claws in you and never let go. But if you do, if you gamble at the Grand Casino and you find yourself on a winning streak, see if you can set Elidor free. I don't want to know what that monster did to them. I must never reveal who I am or where this happened. It may very well lead to my arrest. I'm currently suspect of grand larceny. Crimes usually don't get past local news here. I went to the Lost Heart Casino. That's my favorite place to go, and I usually put my life savings on the line. I've heard of strange incidents happening there, but not like what I witnessed. A young woman went AWOL after 7 deaths here. So did a man she played life or death with. And now this. I am usually good with slot machines. The other day I pulled the lever and got a jackpot with images of cherries. That jackpot won me thousands. I won't be telling you about the currency we used. That'd also be revealing where this happened, and it could out me for sure. The morning after, I found 3 whole baskets of cherries on my doorstep. Thinking someone dropped them off because they felt bad for me, I'm below the poverty line. I took them in and ate some before going to the Lost Heart Casino again. This time, I got another jackpot. 3 oranges in a row. I've never had a consecutive win at the casino before. I took the money home. And the next morning, I found 3 baskets of oranges on my doorstep. Seriously, monetary wins and free food? I took the baskets in and ate some oranges with the cherries. I found myself bitten by the gambling bug for the 20th time. I drove my car back over to the Lost Heart Casino. I felt good, as I'd been below the poverty line for 7 years. It was hard to obtain food and money. This gambling was making me feel awesome. The 3rd consecutive slot machine jackpot came up. 3 images of grapes. I drove home with thousands more to pay for clothing and my shelter with, expecting 3 baskets of grapes to show up on the doorstep the next day. Only, when I opened the door the next morning, I saw 3 baskets of grapes as expected, but something was off. I looked over to the cherries and oranges. Half a basket of cherries went pretty moldy. I threw out the cherries and ate my fruits that morning. I then drove back over to the Lost Heart Casino and played slots again. The 4th consecutive jackpot. But this wasn't with images of fruits this time. The images were of skulls. I half expected 3 skulls to show up on the doorstep the next morning. while I also half expected to die that night. I had my supper and was ready to go to sleep when I saw 3 skulls inside. One was next to the cherries, one was next to the oranges, and the third was next to the grapes. This had happened because of that slot machine. I went to the Lost Heart Casino that morning to find that there were 3 deaths the previous night. 3 deaths. The killed were all farmers. Everyone was scared stiff to find that 3 of our best food growers were murdered brutally. I brushed it off as a coincidence and used the slot machine yet again. The 5th consecutive jackpot. I was beginning to get rich. The images this time, though, scared me stiff that day. They all looked like police badges. Something was up. I half expected to just find 3 police badges on my doorstep, while I also half expected to find the bodies of 3 police officers inside my house. I got ready to sleep that night when I heard loud banging on my door. I looked through my upstairs window only to find 3 policemen standing outside of my door. This is completely insane! They were demanding to be let in to search the 2-story homeless shelter I've been living in due to my state of poverty. I thought I'd heard them say that I was a person of interest because of the murders of the farmers and was suspected of stealing their fruits they grew in their farmer's market. This is no good. I needed to get out of there. I'm suspected of grand larceny here. The fruits were worth a lot of money to get since they were high quality. I have broken into the shelter of another resident of the homeless shelter and am typing on his computer. I am never going to play slots again. My gambling was the factor in the theft of many fruits here. Crime usually doesn't make it past the local news because the criminal is usually arrested once the first part of the crime is committed. And the officers are too good at their job here. I'm going nuts, aren't I? If I tell them what really happened, the police will just brush it off as just coincidences. That's it. I'm getting out. I don't know how this is, but I think it's the casino itself doing all of this. I remember hearing about that woman going AWOL when 7 murders occurred because of one of her games. So I'll go AWOL too, so that I can live without my head getting banged repeatedly while I'm in a cage of some form. So that's it. Goodbye, until that casino is dealt with. I'm a compulsive card player. Blackjack used to be my all-time favorite card game. You bet some money and chips, and then you start off with 2 cards. There's a total number that you start off with. You could keep drawing to up your score, but if it goes over 21, it's a bust, and the house wins. I loved playing blackjack because it earned me lots of money, and I didn't even cheat. I often did this at the Lost Heart Casino. However, my strange experience last week gave me such a heart attack that I no longer wanted to play blackjack. I'm telling the truth. I am certain that the strangest thing that had happened at the Lost Heart Casino was a game adopted from a manga of all places that caused 7 deaths. I'm still a regular at the casino. I just don't play blackjack anymore. So, the event that happened last week, I drew a 21 on the first 2 cards, which is not unheard of in blackjack, and my opponent got a bust. Like, he kept drawing to try and tie with me, but he got over 21 and it was a bust. This is the first time I ever won by bust in blackjack. About 20 minutes after the casino closed for the night, however, I witnessed him getting arrested by the cops for illegal drug trafficking. I did smell alcohol on that guy, but he didn't reek of it much. I would know if someone was carrying drugs to use on other people. The police, even after performing a search and finding no drugs in his possession, took him away in the vehicle anyway. He'd been busted for no reason. I shrugged it off as coincidence and played blackjack the next day. I drew 14 and just left my hand as is then. But my opponent kept drawing and kept getting single numbers. Then when he was at 11, he drew a queen, and I won by bust. I will tell you though, that man went completely insane when he lost to me. About 10 minutes later, a creepy-looking man shot him clear through his shoulder for second card dealing in poker. That man I won the game against was then carried to the hospital. I have no idea why, but the use of guns is allowed in the Lost Heart Casino if you catch someone cheating. This was a major overreaction to his cheating. The third day, I also won by bust against this odd woman. We said good game and went on to gamble on other matters. About then, however, I went pale. A man who definitely looked like a mafia criminal came up to her and spoke like he wanted to make her a prostitute. I was about to confront him when he turned around and showed a skull face. I ran from the casino that day and couldn't figure out what was going on. I just went home that day and tried to sleep it off. But when I went the next day, people were talking about him as if he were the Grim Reaper. Apparently, he busted her for living past her true lifespan and just wanted to take her right away. I still get nightmares about all this. I decided no more blackjack, and I just gamble on other games now. Please be careful if you ever gamble big at the Lost Heart Casino. All right then. I'm gonna go and play some choice poker. I'm typing this on my cell phone, and I'll be playing card games whenever I want. See, we were good players of the crap game. I was a good gambler at craps. We all needed a break from life once in a while. My old friend suggested we played at the Lost Heart Casino. I don't know how this came up, but the games we played always gave me snake eyes. Until we played at the Lost Heart Casino. So I rolled the dice on the first round and won my fair share of money. The next time I'd bet double what I had won, and won again. I rolled the dice on the third round and a pair of freaky-looking snake eyes happened. The dots indicating the number 1 on the die were staring right at me, like real snake eyes. I shrugged it off and I played another round of craps. Snake eyes for the second time, and they stared right at me. I lost most of the money I'd won in the previous rounds, so I played another round. I decided on a don't pass bet this time. Got a 7. Then I put a standard pass line and made my come out roll, the marker on the offside. I got a good 11. But then the air started to feel weird. My friend got a point, placed the marker to on, and he rolled a snake eyes and lost to me. But the snake eyes started to look real. 7 out, I yelled after I rolled a 7. And it wasn't a come-out roll, meaning I lost. For the next round, I got a point, so I placed a bet on that number 4. So I rolled, and the sum was 2 again? Crap! After that loss, the table started to shake. Something was wrong. A strange snake came out of the floor, and I swear we were scared out of our skins. My friends will refer to my main crab friend as L, and the others M and O, and my boyfriend P. My friends will refer to my main crab's friend as L, and the others M and O, and my boyfriend P went to try to find other games. But the snake was after L. I didn't notice it before, and N didn't tell me until the snake came out, but L was a cheat. He'd brought his own die to the table. And that snake looked creepy. Its skin was shedding as it slid along the floor, and its eyes were like the ones I saw on the die. Ugh. M ran straight for the door to leave. P stayed by my side, and we wanted to get rid of that strange snake. The snake did, in fact, go through a wall to get to L, who was hiding in the broom closet. I went there to investigate, but the snake was on him. And I saw it bite down on him. The blood that resulted from the bite spewed all over the broom closet, and L died of the snake's venom. And the snake looked at me, seemingly pleased. And its eyes glowed, like it was the devil himself. And then it just went back through the floor. Such strange crap doesn't make the news here, which means it's not unusual to have a strange event in town. So me and the others got in our minivan and left. We're still going to play craps, but not at the Lost Heart Casino. Elle kind of deserved it, being a cheater and all. But we'll have to go AWOL to play craps elsewhere since we've been suspected of murder by the police. We'll be back to playing craps unmasked when we're cleared. I think we'll be cleared once the autopsy finds snake venom in there. But for now, we'll have to be gone. I'm sorry. I'd heard of a woman who went AWOL after 7 deaths at the casino. Alongside someone who did slots and fruit showed up at his door, and then a teenager playing blackjack and their opponents getting busted for some strange stuff. Me and my friends went there despite hearing about how strange the events were. But we'll have to go. I'm typing this on my smartphone while we're still in tower range. I can't be losing another life now. The police might get me, but we'll need to find a safe spot to hide until the snake venom is found on the body through the autopsy. I used to be a very compulsive gambler. I bet over half of my savings each time, and I was a good winner of many rounds of poker, the crap game, chess. Yes, I gambled money on chess too, horse racing, and so on. That is, until my recent experience. I was on good terms with the owner of the Lost Heart Casino, and will not disclose the name of the town where the casino is and where I live, for privacy reasons. I also cannot disclose my name, as that could lead to my arrest and possible trip to the loony bin. My best friend, we'll call her Q, was going to gamble her money on a round of chess, while I was going to play Life or Death. Yes, Lost Heart Casino adopted the game from Kakegurui, and I do watch anime. To those of you who don't know what Life or Death is, it's a game in which 10 small swords, which are little objects with hilts as long as the blades, are placed into a cup, which is then quickly placed down on the circle with the slots and numbers. Then we had to place poker chips onto numbers we would bet a sword would fall into within 5 seconds. If we guessed the number right and the sword in the slit had its blade up, we won 30 times what we bet. If we guessed right but the hilt side was up, we lost 30 times what we bet. My opponent, we'll call him R, placed his chips on all of the odd numbers for the first round. I reciprocated by placing mine on all of the even numbers. That moment, the cup was lifted. It showed we had both guessed right on some of the numbers. Only, all the swords that landed a number had their hilts side up. It was a massive loss for both of us. We said good game and went to gamble on a different matter. Slot machines, lottery tickets, etc. Later on that night, this person, we'll call him S, evidently brought his own dice, and I caught him while we were playing craps. I lifted the dice and could figure out immediately that there was more weight on some corners than not. I got pretty mad at him for cheating. Then, after a round of poker against someone, we'll call her T, I was ready to break her fingers for second card dealing when I heard from one of the casino regulars that someone had been stabbed with a katana. I went over to see what the commotion was, and I was dumbfounded. There really was a katana whose blade was cut right through the body. I walked closer to the body despite the protests from the security officers at the Lost Heart Casino. What I saw on that katana's hilt, on the end of it, was the unmistakable mark of the number 9, written like the numbers on the life or death boards we use to place our bets. That was one of the numbers R guessed right. I would have guessed it was 6 if 6 was one of the numbers I guessed right. But no sword landed on 6, so the only number it had to be was 9. Shortly after I made note of it, someone witnessed another death in the casino. I went over to that body. This was an old friend from high school. We'll call him you. I was stricken with grief to see you dead before my eyes. I looked at the katana. Written on the end of the hilt was the number 14. That was one of my numbers. I was grief-stricken. How could I have done this to a friend from high school? I had no time to cry. There was a possibility of more dead bodies. I looked around the perimeter for more. I noted the numbers 7, 10, 3, 20. All of which R and I bet some chips on and got the death result from. And the katanas looked as though they fell from the ceiling onto them. Luckily, in the town where I live, murders never make it past local news, or even into the news at all, because the mystery is usually solved quickly, and we have extremely talented detectives. And there was another one in the manager's office. This was the head of security, also stabbed with a katana. The number on the katana was unmistakably the first one I'd bet my chips on and got death on. The number 8. This was insane. How could my gambling have been a murder weapon? This made no sense to me. I was simply a compulsive gambler who just did it for the fun of it, and yet I never imagined anything like this happening as a result. Now I'm on the run from the police. I'm considered the prime suspect, hence my need to write in anonymity. This was all too much for me to take. 7 people murdered with the katanas being the murder weapon, one of which was my old friend you from high school, and all marked with the numbers R and I guessed right with the hilt side up in the game of life or death. I'm at the library at the moment, writing this on one of the computers here. And luckily, the Wi-Fi at the library is a VPN. After I submit it, I'll be on the run from the cops for the series of freak events that happened, which were a complete and utter case of accidental deaths. I've stopped gambling since. I'm worried out of my skull that something like this will happen again if I even play another game with money and life savings on the line. I'm worried out of my skull that something like this will happen again if ever I play another game with money and life savings on the line. Say, if I play dice again, someone could die with dice stuffed in their throat and the visible dots being what I won with. Or if I play poker and get a winning hand, someone could die randomly on the toilet with a label on their body that says royal flush or straight flush or something like that. I'm just imagining things there. But I'm pretty scared to death. Like now it's possible. Is a gambling demon after my soul or something? I've been bitten by the gambling bug so much that now this happens. Just what is going on? Why can't I have peace with my life? If I get caught, I'll have no chance of surviving the sentence the judge orders of me. Not even if I made it to the Supreme Court. Let's hope the constables don't catch me. I can't reveal the cause of the freak accident. It's not like they'll believe me anyway. They'll probably kill me on the spot. Or in the best-case scenario, be put in the loony bin wearing a tight straitjacket and never being let out of the padded room at all. So this is it. I'm not going to be a gambler anymore. I will not be seen again. I'm going AWOL. Don't let them tell you I'm a danger to society. I had no idea how it all happened, and it was scary. So goodbye. Until I'm cleared as a suspect. Gamble is a unique man. He's a psychopath who kills strangers for fun. But he doesn't just kill them. And some of the people who encounter him survive. Maybe not many. Maybe not for long. But they do survive the encounter. That is because it's all a game of chance. I'm one of the lucky people who won the game. Last night was just like any other, but I woke up in the early hours of the morning, I think it was probably 1 or 2, on a chair with my legs and arms secured to stop me from escaping. My mouth was covered with tape. Across from me at the table, he was sat rather relaxed. He was wearing a pristine, all-black suit that consisted of dress pants, a button-up shirt, a tie, and a waistcoat. His sleeves were rolled up to the elbows as to display the identical tattoos on his forearms. They were bands wrapping around his arms, which from the wrist up were made up of playing cards, poker chips, playing card symbols, clubs, spades, hearts, and diamonds, and the last band being horseshoes. His face was covered by a white plastic mask which featured only 2 eye holes, one of which was filled with an 8-ball. He had black short hair which slightly crept over the top of the mask. It was then that he spoke in a voice that, under different circumstances, would seem friendly.
My name is Gamble. We're gonna play a game of chess that has a few stages. The bet for each of us is our lives.
He proceeded to explain how the game worked.
First, we play a game of blackjack. The winner is safe, whereas the loser continues with the game. Ready to play and risk your life?
I shook my head.
You sure? Because if you forfeit the game, you lose by default, and we move on. Playing greatly increases your chance of survival. So I'll ask you again. Ready to play?
Being as I didn't want to die, I begrudgingly nodded.
Great. I'll be the dealer.
He then proceeded to deal out a game of blackjack. I had an 8 and a 7. His visible card was a 10.
Want another card?
He asked me. I nodded. It was a 2.
17. That's pretty close. Want to try and get closer?
He asked quickly. He sounded almost excited, as if the risk for both of us was a drug to him. I nodded. I got a 5. Knowing the rules of the game, I was terrified. I'd gone over 21. I lost.
Tough luck.
He said, as if he was my friend and I just cracked my phone screen.
Now you're going to the next stage. The part where if you lose, it's game over.
He pulled out a revolver.
You familiar with Russian roulette?
I nodded.
Oh, good. Well, the next part of the game is a modified version of that, where the number of bullets and the trigger pulls can both be more than 1. And you know how we find those numbers.
He took from his pocket a black dice. My heart sank.
I'll roll for you, since you're a little tied up at the moment.
He chuckled at what he said, and if I'm being honest, if I wasn't facing a chance of death and was instead watching this play out as a film, I would have been as well. He rolled the dice twice, each time it landed in front of me so I could see the number. A 2 and a 3. He took a minute to show what would have been the side that said 6, which had been replaced with a skull.
At least you're luckier than others.
I watched as he put the dice back in his pocket and retrieved 2 bullets. He placed them in the gun and spun the cylinder.
Let's see how lucky you are.
He got up and walked to my side, pointing the gun at my head. I felt a cold metal press against my temple. He then started counting.
3.
My entire body tensed up until... click.
2.
I started sweating out of fear at this point. Click.
And one.
I swear that moment lasted for hours. My entire body was trembling, my life flashing before my eyes. Click.
You're pretty lucky.
He said, surprised.
You won the game.
He put the gun away and took out a single coin. Said the word heads and flipped it. He caught it and looked at the result.
Nice.
He started climbing out of the window that before now I hadn't even realized was open. And as he left, I heard the words that are making me live constantly paranoid.
See you next week. Let's see if your luck holds up.